Welcome, everyone, to the Goddess Vibration Podcast. This is Allie.
And this is Tiara.
Surprisingly enough, I didn't know that this was going to be a three-part series, but we realized that there was one other portion of this that we really want to discuss, considering the fact that we are like a self-help spiritual podcast. And we talked about the game of life in part 1 and 2 in terms of just non-spiritual, and I do believe that there is a spiritual component for those of our listeners who are into spirituality to help escape from the programming, the matrix, psychological warfare, whatever term you guys want to use. And that is, we want to discuss healing as part of the game of life and the significance of healing and how it can really transform your life, because anyone who is into spirituality, they'll talk a lot about vibration, frequency, why it matters, why it's really important to raise your vibrations or ascend, or there's a lot of different terms out there. And what's crazy is that a lot of these terms basically mean the same thing. It's just a fancier way to say certain things. And I just don't think enough people talk about the way that the game of life is played. It is meant to be played to keep us in the lower vibrations. If you guys actually look at like an emotional frequency chart, you can Google it, you'll see that a lot of the lower frequencies are anger and shame, guilt, and all of these really low emotions that keep us stuck, like at the root chakra, where your scarcity mindset is, where a lot of your money blocks are. And it's just like, as long as these things, as long as your root stays blocked, as long as they can keep you stressed out, anxiety ridden, losing sleep, not having time to focus on yourself, these are all forms of psychological warfare that they use. They use it in the news. They use it in propaganda. They use it to control us. They use it to control the narrative, which is a big one. And they use it to keep us feeling like we are the problem. Something is wrong with us. We are not working hard enough. We are not showing up enough. We are not meeting their expectations. And when you start your spiritual journey, you kind of learn that it's not about the outside world. Spirituality is you versus you. Spirituality is not crystals, it's not tarot, it's not meditations, it's not affirmations, it's not thinking positively all the time. And although, yes, those things should be a component to life, they are not true spirituality. Spirituality is your own individual journey where you are at emotionally, mentally, physically. All of these things matter. And it's like the game of life in terms of spiritual warfare. That's why a lot of people say we're in a spiritual war, is designed to keep us stuck in the lower vibrations and feeling hopelessness and feeling like we're the problem and there's no way out.
And what makes it even more challenging is given all of that and knowing all of that, now you have to climb your way out of that. And that can be very daunting. Um, and we see how daunted people are because we obviously notice that, yeah, that's a lot of hard work and that's not easy to do. And people run from that all the time. And I get it. No, I get it completely, running from that, completely understandable. You know,
Yes, she
I
does.
still do it. I still want to. But I have to fight that urge. But yeah, it's completely understandable that people would put their heads in the sand and just feel hopeless and helpless and daunted by the prospect of having to overcome all of that. So it's a lot, and that's why we always talk about this, about the importance and significance of having community and having other people who can support you and help you along the journey. Because I think something that really has affected our collective, not just society in the West, but the entire planetary collective, is how we've all isolated ourselves from one another and gone from collectivists to individualists. And I'm sure that was by design too, because they have everything figured out. That was absolutely intentional, but that's had devastating effects on us as a species socially. I think it's affected our psyche, and I think more or less it's because like our species is meant to be a collective and community based type of people. Like we were meant to exist together and live together in harmony and collectiveness. And I personally feel like that's at our core, like that's how we are meant to be. And the powers that be have done a fantastic job of separating us and keeping us away from that. And I think that that makes it even more difficult. So I do think a big piece of this is finding that collectivism again, and how when we come together and we work together as one, that we are more impactful or more effective and we can facilitate change. Because right now, I think everyone's still kind of existing in their own bubble. We see some people, protesting here and there, but I just feel like we all need to do it and come together as one because we are stronger as one. So I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in there.
I mean, I yes, I would agree with that because if you look at the most recent No Kings protest. Now, I mean, it hit record numbers, which is fantastic. But at the same time, I think in the US, around 7 to 8 million people showed up, which is, I mean, in retrospect, that's a lot of people. But when you compare it to the fact that America is the third most populated country in the world with like 320 million people, 7, 8 million people is really nothing. It's just like, where is the other 312 million people? And that's just when you look at it in terms of large scale of numbers. Yeah, I mean, 7 to 8 is phenomenal. And I think the more that these protests get organized, more and more people are going to show up because more and more people are frustrated because as things are unfolding so quickly, and they don't, I mean, I gotta give this administration props because I mean, the balls that they have of just saying, "We're just gonna let people starve." Like, sorry. And I'm just like, wow, okay. So it's like this administration is really starting to show their true colors, and it's just more and more people are awakening to that. And it's just, again, like going back to the first episode, yeah, we have more power than we realize. And you have to understand that they use psychological warfare to keep us from awakening. They want to keep us distracted. They want to keep us in this consumerism, capitalism bubble that they've created because they're just like, well, we're going to make it harder for you guys to get jobs. We're going to push women out of the workforce. We're going to take away women's votes to right or to women's right to vote. And that, which is actually really crazy because I saw a TikTok of someone who likes to who follows this and like has a whole map of the United States, and they were actually like drawing in blue and red of like, if women didn't have the right to vote, what would the elections look like? And I could not tell you. I think it was like, because I think, how many electronic votes do you need? 240 to win, I believe. I believe. Sorry, again, I'm not deep into politics, but I think it showed like 360 for Republicans and like 40 electoral votes for Democrats. That's if they took women's voting rights away. And I was just like, wow, okay, that really speaks volumes on why they want to take so many of our rights away and why they want to take our education away, and like they're forcing us to have kids. But you want to know what it's like? I know people who do want kids. It's the fact that people can't afford to have kids. No, you shouldn't be bringing in kids if you can't feed yourself. Like, all you're doing is adding stress onto your life. And so it's just, if you self educate a little bit you should self educate a lot. But if you start to self educate, and if you look at patterns of history, and if you look at, you know, the good fight that women were fighting for equal rights, and if you just look at the way that inflation has absolutely changed our economy, it's changed the way that we live. And it's all by design. It's so crazy. And what's even more crazy is that this was written in a document called Project 2025. And I don't know why some people just didn't believe that this administration was not aligned with Project 2025, but a lot of people did. And it's just, again, it's back to psychological warfare where they control the internet, they control our news, they control the airwaves, and they want to keep us divided. That's another whole big point of that, because the more divided we are, then the harder it is for us to come together, because they know that we are powerful as one when we all stand together as one.
I'm sorry. I want to talk about this attack on women thing because a couple of years ago, like we started seeing hints in the news waves about they're attacking women and the Republicans are making attacks on women. And I don't mean to get political. It's just that's just kind of some of the stuff I was seeing a couple of years ago. And I think maybe collectively we sort of did this thing where we were like, that can't happen. And like, no way, like they're not going to be able to do that. Like, the right to vote is codified in the Constitution. Like they can't do that. But here it is, 2025, and I'm seeing conversation, not just from the administration, but other circles about taking away women's right to do things like buy birth control, to travel
Yep.
freely, to
Yep.
vote. And I'm just like, how did we get here? Like, how did we get from suffrage movements back to here? And it's very jarring. Like, and it was stuff that was very jarring to me because these were individuals who had platforms, right? So there's a couple of them that I see on X or Twitter sometimes. They have platforms of individuals who believe and agree with everything that they're saying. That the reason, the best thing we can do for this country is take away women's right to vote because look how women vote. And I'm just like, God forbid women might have an opinion different from yours, or that maybe there's something wrong with your policies, and maybe that's why. But the solution is to take away their right to vote. It's just blows my mind that this is where we are. Uh, so it goes to show the extremes that they're willing to go to have that control and to essentially what they're doing is force down our throats their agenda. Like they have their specific agenda, they have their specific narrative. It's going to get shoved down our throats whether we like it or not. And if we don't like it, well, we're supposed to be doing something about it. I'm not sure exactly why we're
Oh,
not.
we'll be punished for it.
Uh,
We're going to be punished.
Well, sure, but like, at what I mean, what's the alternative? Like, you know what I mean? I just it's insane to me that this is where we are in 2025, and I for that for those men who say those things and the women too, because there are some women who think this too that women shouldn't vote. That exists out there too. I feel like there are more of us who don't agree with that, but what I don't see is the pushback against that from the individuals who don't, and so it kind of just allows the stuff to fester and grow, and they gain more a bigger platform and more audience and more fans. And then the opposing views are just like, yeah, we'll just let them do their thing. They can just think what they want to think. And I'm just like, no, we need to do something. We need to say something. We need to push back. And I just don't see that. And so, it's unfortunate. But here we are in 2025.
It's actually wild. And a lot of people are saying that this is the end. We are in the end game. And I actually said that, I think at the beginning of last year to Tiara, I was like, these next few years, like strap in because we are in the end game. We are at the end of capitalism. The age of Pisces just ended. We're entering a new age, the age of Aquarius. We are out of the industrial age. We are in the tech age. And I just don't think a lot of people understand like how dangerous the tech age can be and most likely is going to be. And so oftentimes people are just like, well, what's the solution? Well, we talked about some solutions in part 2, but on a spiritual stage, we're going to talk about moving into the 5D frequency. It's just if you follow spirituality in any way, shape, or form, then you've heard the term New Earth. Now, again, I'm going to stress it. It's not a physical place. And I've had a hard time wrapping my head around that. I was like, how can it be a new earth, but I still have to exist on this planet? And they're just like, well, it's energetic, right? And so I'm just like, okay. Now, I have ascended. I am at the 5D frequency, and it's actually a beautiful place to be because, like, you guys want to ask me, what's it like to be in 5D frequency? Let me tell you one thing: I do not stress. I don't really have stress. I am confident in my ability to adapt and problem solve and navigate whatever comes my way. I don't put worry into things that might happen because we have to understand, because I understand actually, that our words, our thoughts are all energy, right? And it's just, if everything is energy, and if they keep saying, like, how do I reach the new earth? Well, you reach it with a frequency, right? And if words and thoughts are vibrations and frequency, and if you're using a lot of negative wording, if you have a lot of self doubt, if you have a lot of self hate, if you're feeling hopelessness, if you are feeling stuck, if you have low self esteem, if you don't trust in your ability to make decisions, if you don't trust yourself, if you're not in tune with your intuition, these are all things that are going to keep you in the lower vibrations. And it's all by design from the powers that be, because they are actually destroying our creativity. They are taking away our creativity. They are removing color from the world because color makes us happy. And if you haven't noticed, everything is turning black, gray, white, like dark blue. Like those are the four colors of the world. And it's like they are removing the vibrant colors of the world. This is actually one of the reasons why I love Colombia. Colombia is like so beautiful and so colorful, and there's color everywhere. And it's just like, I'm just like, yeah, it's like when you go to certain places, you realize that they're removing it from our homes. They're removing it, like cars. Like if you've ever been to Cuba and you see all those old cars that used to be hot pink and like neon green and like these really like sky blue, and I'm just like, where the hell's all the color in the world? It's, you guys have to understand, like, the psychological warfare. They do it with taking away color in the world, things that make us happy. Yellow is a very bright, beautiful color. You know what I'm saying? And it's like they're doing it by suppressing us, telling us that we're not good enough, telling us that we need to work harder. And so when you let all of that, like, when you let all of that stuff into your brain, it attaches to you and it keeps you like stuck and in the lower, being just like, why do I even bother? I can't get a, it's like I can't get a promotion or I can't get a better paying job. And it's like I show up, and even if you're a high performer, that was one of my issues. I showed up and I performed every single day, but I wasn't really recognized for it. Like people were getting promotions because that's just not what it's just, they don't like high performers, and they reward the really bad performers, and then they kind of suppress the high performers. And it's just like there's all this psychological stuff that they do. And so, like, people always ask me, like, what is 5D, or like what is 5D frequency like? And I'm just like, I have peace in my life, and I don't really worry, and I don't really have negative thoughts, because I understand that when we have negative thoughts, it keeps us from manifesting. When we have negative self-talk, it keeps us from manifesting. And so many people just don't understand that your reality that is reflected back at you is your internal frequency. So if you are chaos, if you're drama, if you have chaos in your life, that's what's going to be reflected back at you in your physical world. And I have learned how to find peace. I have learned how to balance my brain. I have learned how to not overthink. I have learned how to take a step back. I've learned how to observe. I've learned how to be quiet. I've learned how to be silent, because the more, just because you're louder doesn't mean that you are more important. So it's like there's a lot of things in life that like you guys really need to learn about yourself. This is why spirituality is you versus you. It is nobody else. When you go on the spiritual journey, like I said, you have to just block out all the noise of other spiritual teachers, new age, love and light, and so many people just get stuck in that. And I know for a fact that Tiara was there, and maybe she can share and shed some light on her experiences with that.
So we're talking about being stuck in the love and light aspects, which we have a name for it. It's called the false ascension matrix, is what we call it. But yeah, and it's actually a trap that has ensnarled many, many people. Actually, I'd say most of the spiritual teachers today are trapped in the false ascension matrix, which is actually a term you can find on Ascension Glossary. We haven't mentioned Ascension Glossary in a while, but ascensionglossary.com actually talks a lot about what's going on the planet, the ascension process, and some of the things we need to consider. And when I initially awakened, I kind of did this thing where I was like, all right, I know we live in a matrix. I know reality is not what I think it is. I know I need to like heal or something. How do I do that? I'm going to go to Google. So I went to Google, and it was compounded by the fact that I intuitively, for many years, had had this sense that I was connected or attached to another person. And it sort of revealed itself in my awakening that I was. And that's when I identified and determined that I was a twin soul. So that's kind of was part of that awakening process, that recognition. And so part of it was, all right, I want to know more about twin souls, and I want to know what I'm supposed to be doing and how to do it. So I went to the interwebs and stumbled upon articles about twin flames, and most of them did resonate. So I was like, oh, okay, makes a lot of sense. And then somehow found my way over to Quora, which is like the new Yahoo answers of the internet. And then eventually also found my way into a couple Facebook groups that were spiritual. Now, these Facebook groups at this point have grown to millions of people. Like when I first was looking into some of those groups, they were like tens of thousands, thousands. Some of these spiritual Facebook groups have over a million people now. And they're all sort of an echo chamber, right? Like, and everyone's sharing love and light, this and crystals and meditation, and you're on the right path, just keep going, you. And so like, when you've awakened and you feel good and you're just like, oh my god, this new wave of higher energies is hitting me and it feels so amazing, you don't want to lose that, or disappear. You don't want that to disappear. You want to hold on to that because it feels good. So that's what you do, and that's what I certainly did. Like I held on to that essence and energy for dear life. Like I was like, all right, I'm gonna get into tarot, and I did. Um, and I started a business. Actually, a couple. One was embodied womb, and then there was another one that was like about. It was tied to channeling. And now, mind you, I hadn't done like any shadow work, right? Because when you're in these love and light circles, they don't talk about shadow work. They're just like, oh, meditation and yoga. And, I can help you manifest all your goals in 2 weeks. Pay me. And so I was like, all right, yeah. So I think I ended up paying a couple people. I paid someone to do my Akashic Records reading, which actually she was pretty good. She got pretty accurate information. Um, I paid someone to do some QHT. I think I paid someone to do some aura work for me. And like, I didn't really get anywhere with that stuff. It was fun and I learned some interesting things, but it didn't like help me ascend or help me do any type of shadow work or anything like that. So I kind of just ended up stuck there. And I I see so many other spiritualists that are in that same space, to the point where I remember having a conversation with someone who had claimed to have ascended to 12D in 3 days. In three
3
days,
days.
yeah. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. So, what was your shadow work process like? And she was like, well, I didn't need to do that because I just ascended without it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's really awesome. Cool. Good for you. Being completely sarcastic. Um, but just goes to show that, we get up into that space where we're sitting on that love and light energy and it feels so good and we don't want to go away. Like we don't want to lose that. And I just think that that's where a lot of people are right now who are on the journey. Like where they think they've ascended, or they don't think there's a need for any shadow work, or they like where they are, or no one can tell them that where they are isn't where they should be. And that's a journey to get past, because you kind of have to swallow your pride a little bit. Because I'm going to be honest, when it comes to being at that space, there's a sense of validation and pride that goes into it, right? Like your ego is like, yeah, this is where we belong. Uh, so to get past it, you have to get past that ego trying to keep you there, and that's another aspect of the work of the journey. So yeah, I liked it there. I was there for a couple years. I liked it there. I miss it there sometimes, but it's a trap. At the end of the day, it is a trap.
And that's a really jarring reality. I We ended the Game of Life part 2 with just a tidbit on healing about this TikTok that I saw. Just to recap real quick about this guy that was like, people honestly believe in the love and light spaces that healing is bubble baths and candles, journaling, meditation, yoga, frequency baths, frequency healing, like, just really, music. And honestly, like, all of that is really beautiful, and there's a calming effect, which is fantastic. It should be incorporated, but it is not proper healing. And in this podcast interview that this guy was doing, he was like, I usually ask people, did you feel any pain when you were doing any of those things? And they always look at me like, no, why would I feel pain? I feel fantastic. Like, I get to sit in a bubble bath, I get to journal, I have my candles, everything smells good. Like, he was like, okay, well, healing is actually extremely painful. It's extremely, extremely painful, because how you properly heal is you have to face your deepest, darkest traumas and, the things that you bury and your repressed emotions you're bringing to the surface, and you learn how to stop suppressing, and you learn how to heal through processing that pain. On top of, once you start to process that pain, you start to live more authentically, and authenticity is the highest frequency there is. And it's just, people, I don't understand, like, if you are neglecting a part of yourself, and if you're just shoving it in a box and throwing away the key, how you can just say like, oh yeah, it's like, I am up here and I'm authentic, and like, look at me, like, everything's so great. And it's just like, no, no, it's not. It's not authentic. It's like, you're lying to yourself. Lying to yourself is not authenticity. And this is why, if you go back to our episodes about things that guides will say, and this came from a different TikToker who, she gets clients, and the clients hire her to talk to their guides. And she was just like, I've talked to thousands of guides at this point, and the number one thing I see that guides absolutely do not like is the amount of lying people do to themselves. It's like the avoidance, the lying. It's like they think that by lying to yourself, you can just trick your brain into thinking everything's okay when everything is obviously not okay. And that stunts people's growth. That puts you into this falsehood or delusion, and people don't really understand how dangerous that is. And this is why people have psychotic breaks, because people try to mm, like, will their mind and will their egos into believing things that are not true. And the ego is a really tricky thing to navigate, because the ego is there to protect you, but the ego is also there for making you feel validated externally. Like, the ego wants external validation. The ego likes to be a winner. The ego likes to, just feel like it has the ego wants to be all. The ego wants to be on top. It wants to be competitive. It wants to win when it is competitive. The ego wants the external validation that, whatever you're doing, whether it's career wise, whether it's a sporting event, it's like no matter what you do, it's like the ego wants that validation of good job. Like, it's like, okay, I have dedicated all this time and energy towards this one thing, and now I'm being recognized for it. The ego fuels on that. And but when it comes to trauma, the ego is there to protect you. The ego, it's like people with horrible, horrible memory issues. It's because the ego doesn't want you to go deeper. The ego is stopping you from going down there. And we have actually worked with people that it was just like, who can just feel it, who are like, they have their intuition very in tune with themselves. Like, I have met people that's just like, I don't want to go down there because I don't think I'm going to make it out alive. And so the ego is going to stop you from going deeper. And it's like, how do you overcome that? Because people who are extremely ego driven, the more ego driven you are, the more you will run from yourself, and the more that you're going to lie to yourself.
Yes, and I know something about that. Um, what I wasn't like sure of is the notion of the psychotic break, because you mentioned that that often happens because you try to convince yourself of something that isn't true. I've been exploring the psychotic break concept just a little bit because I've gotten close to it a couple times. And one of the things I felt like triggered it for me was how I was trying to make sense of things that I couldn't make sense of. Like it was almost like I was trying to deconstruct or analyze or find a logical conclusion for things that I couldn't resolve. Um, so, like for example, I carry a lot of guilt and shame about things that went on, not just in this prior life, like in my lifetime, in this incarnation, but in other incarnations too. And so my mind was trying to reconcile some of these other things and try to figure out, well, is it because of that happened that this is going on now? And how do I fix it in this lifetime, even though it happened then? And I would just kind of get caught in loops. Um, and that a couple times has pushed me close to psychosis. So it's interesting that a part of that has something to do with how you lie to yourself. Now, the interesting thing about lying to yourself is that Allie's absolutely right. Like, it's something you do to protect yourself. Like, the ego is trying to protect you, and it's trying to protect the wounded person underneath. It's trying to keep you from going to that because what my mind tells me is that if you, and this, I've talked to my ego directly before, and this is exactly what my ego said. If you go down there and you go and look at that, it's going to destroy you. Like my ego said that to me point blank, and I was just like, oh, okay, good job, ego. Um, so I don't know how true that is, but I think there's some truth to it because I've often seen stories of people doing the shadow work and going mad. So I know there's some truth to it. It's just like, what is that point that it tilts from healing to destroying? I don't know. I don't know what the demarcation is. Um, but when I lie to myself, it's the kind of thing where I don't know that I'm lying to myself. It's just like, well, this is what it is. That's the truth. And then Allie's just like, no, no, you're lying to yourself. And I'm just like, well, what do you mean? What are you talking about? That's how insidious it is when you lie to yourself. And if you do it long enough, sometimes you can't tell the difference
He's
between the lie and the truth anymore.
right.
And that's crazy. And navigating that
And
is
that can
crazy.
lead to psychosis. And that's exactly what psychosis is. You lose track of what's real and what's not real.
I do also struggle with delusion, which is closely tied to psychosis. Um, and like a lot of times for me, it's just like it's the same thing. Like I can't tell the difference between the truth versus the delusion. Like the delusion is the truth to me. until someone else says to me, "Hey, actually, that's not the case," and I'm just like, "Well, what do you mean?" So it's a sneaky thing to have to navigate when you lie to yourself for so consistently for so long. Eventually, you get to the point where it's hard to determine what the truth is anymore, and that's dangerous. Absolutely.
Right. And I know, like, you should never do something that you are not ready for. Now, you have to be careful with this advice because you might convince yourself that you'll never be ready. And that's okay if you convince yourself that you're never going to be ready, but don't expect all the changes to come with it if you are unwilling to address it. Like, I know so many people that's just like, well, I want things to change. I want different things, but they don't want to lift a finger to get it. They do not want to get off the couch. They just want things to change from the comfort of their own home or their own place. Like, it's just, it doesn't work like that. And I understand why people want things to change from the comfort of their own home. But you guys, if it were that easy, everyone would have everything that they want. And I think that so many people forget about that. Like, so many people are just like, well, I wish I had more money in my bank account. Like, oh my God, all my problems would be solved if I had more money in my bank account. But I don't want to work for it. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to the office. I don't want to show up and flip burgers. And it's just like, okay, I understand your need for wanting money, but if it were as easy, the whole point of this, if it were as easy that you could just will more money into your bank account from sitting on your couch, guess what? Everyone would do it. And it's just like, people think like I can change my life just by thinking about it, willing it, putting the affirmations in, thinking positively about it. And again, that does work for some people. But again, the universe responds to what is going inside and internally. It doesn't care about your wants. It doesn't care about the things that you say. It is really looking from the inside of you. That's why I always encourage people to do the deeper healing, to do the inner work, because once you start shifting that, that is when the universe is going to be like, oh, okay, they're putting in some of the work. Well, let's show them that it's working. It's like, let's reward those behaviors. Let's reward that person putting in the inner work and shifting and changing their life. It's like, when for me, it's like my life didn't start changing until I decided to take my power back. And I started saying, okay, I have this problem. How, what are my blocks? How do I look at this situation differently? And what can I do to take the proper steps to make things different in my life? And the more that I did that, yeah, did I make some wrong decisions along the way? Yes. Did it cost me more money than it should have? Yes. But you have to understand, it's like, you can't be afraid to take those steps to start changing your life. Even if they don't work out, then you don't stop. You keep trying. And like, it's like, when people hear no, they think, no, well, that's it. Okay, I asked for it. I've heard no. Okay, like, let's bench it. Let's forget about it. Like, I can't do it. And it's like, the people who hear no but keep going are the ones that become successful in the game of life. And it's just, so many people just don't understand that, because it's like, we are conditioned, especially in school. It's like, raise your hand if you have a question. Like, don't speak out of turn. Oh, you're not in line properly. Go to the back of the line. It's like, you have to understand, like, they condition these things in us. Like, we follow their rules, and if we hear the word no, then that's it. We don't ask again. And it's like, you have to understand, it's like how much power that they've taken away from us from such a young age through psychological warfare. And this is psychological warfare is the same thing to me as programming. So when I use the word programming, I'm essentially talking about psychological warfare and how easily, and you have to understand, children's most impressionable ages are from like 2 to 6. Like we are sponges. We can learn anything. You want your kid to, let's like, you want your kid to speak 10 languages, start them at age 2 to like 6 years old. We are just sponges. And so you have to understand, we start preschool at like age 4. So they are already starting to condition us to suppress us, to teach us to follow the rules, for us to follow the leader, stand in line properly. Oh, if we break the rules, then we go to the principal's office, we get punished, or we have to go into the back of the line if we cut someone or if we're not standing in line properly. I remember all of this from elementary school. And so you have to understand that's brought up into the workforce. It's like we have bosses. It's like we can't talk back to our bosses. We can't contribute ideas to our bosses. And it's just like you have to understand the level of suppression and psychological warfare and how unfair this game truly is, because we are just pawns in the game of chess and in the game of life. And so if you guys really want to escape it, you have to work on you, and no one else is going to work on you for you.
I love the passion and fire. Um, no, she's absolutely right. And, I haven't really given a lot of thought to how unfair of a game it is. But as we have this conversation and as we were doing research for this conversation, like, she's absolutely right that it is the most unfair thing ever. Like, to the point where I see and I witness the powers that be doing things to like skirt the karmic consequences. Now, how real that is and how possible that is, I don't know. But I know that that's something that they do to try to avoid the consequences of doing what they're doing to the masses. And it's so aggravating. I'm just like, how do you do this to an entire species, by the way? Like, this is not just the West, right? Like, all governments and powers that be do this to their populace to some degree, to some extent. And I'm just like, how dare you? And then I think about what we have to do to overcome everything that they've done, and then it makes me more mad. And so it's such an unfair game. And to the point where I've had the thoughts where I'm like, well, if you can't beat them, join them, right? Like, and I think that my soul history is mostly that, right? If you can't beat them, join them. Okay, fine. They want to go and do like curse lineages. All right, fine. We'll do the same thing, which is terrible. I don't recommend you do that. Nobody do that. Don't do that. But it's just goes to share a little bit about how infuriating and aggravating it is, and what it can drive you to do sometimes. So yeah, it's not fair at all. And the unfortunate reality is that if we want to get out of it, we have to put in so much effort and energy and work to do so. But the good news is that if you do that and you go that route, there's something waiting for you on the other side, something beautiful and positive, which is what would make everything worth it. Now, I personally have a long way to go, but that there's a part of me that does keep going because I know that, right? Like, I know that there's something more beautiful on the other side somewhere over there. Um, and I do continue to put in the effort for that reason. So maybe that can be a motivator for some of you guys, that, if you do put in the effort, that there is something beautiful and better for you on the other side of that really difficult and introspective work.
Essentially, like when you start doing healing work, you'll often hear a lot of people talk about childhood trauma, like the inner child and dealing with childhood trauma. And basically, you have to understand that so much of us are comprised of our childhood and the things that we learn in our childhood and the environment that we grew up in our childhood. It's like, did you have absent parents? Did you have present parents? It's like, what were some of the teachings that your parents instilled in you, or what type of behavior maybe even came out of your siblings? It's just like, you have to understand that, like, not every person is made the same, and how hard that must be to be a parent. Like, I've seen some super interesting podcasts of people talking to like psychologists or family therapists, and they're just like, you have to understand something, that if parents have more than one child, each child is going to get a different version of their parents. And I thought that was really interesting because it's like typically the first child, the oldest child, gets all of the attention, and the parents are trying to figure out like how to navigate being a parent and are typically way more strict with the first child. And then the second child comes along and it's just like, okay, we've done this once, like we kind of know it works, we kind of know it doesn't. And so they'll get like a different version of that parent because they're more laid back. Typically, they're more just like they don't put so much emphasis on like the grades and things like that. And then by the third child, because I was the third child, it's like parents are just like, okay, you know what? Like you just do be you. You know what? It's like the last child typically gets the most relaxed, laid back parent style because it's like you're the third child by then. It's like, okay, we got this. Like we know what they need. We know that they need clothes. We know that they need food. We know that like we check on them every once in a while, make sure that like they do their homework or whatever. And so I found that podcast so interesting because I was thinking about that and I was like, that's so true. Thinking about me being the youngest versus like stories that my brother used to tell me about, just like, you have no idea. They are totally different with you than they are with me. And so all of these things like contribute to who we become as adults, right? It's like you have to understand, unfortunately, there's narcissistic parents, which I was very fortunate that I did not have. And so also like the psychological warfare that causes on a child, right? That neglect. And, it's just, I had a mother who she was a librarian. She worked at the school that we worked at in our tiny town. And so my mother had the exact same schedule as us. So my mother was like, she was at school the same hours we with us. We went home together at 3:30. She started dinner, and it's just like, and then she got all the same breaks we did. So we took family vacations because she didn't have to take time off of work. She had the same schedule as us. She had every summer off with us. And so like I had very, very present parents. And I also had very interesting parents who were just like, no, like we want our children to succeed. We're going to teach you things like finances. We're going to make you curious about the world. We're going to go into third world countries so you can see how fortunate you guys are and how lucky it is for you guys to like see how others live. And like, I mean, we went to, think, I think when I went to Trinidad and Tobago, we took a family trip. I think I was 10. And, Trinidad and Tobago was it was a very beautiful place, but it was also, much poorer than the United States. And it's like, I just remember things from that trip. And my mother was just like, yeah, Allie, they don't have running water. Like, it's just, they exposed me to things. And it also made me super curious about the world. So, it kind of set me up to be able to world travel someday. And so, going back to the inner child work, it's like a lot of people who have that trauma, you need to reparent yourself, and you need to, it's like reprogram yourself, reparent yourself. And that is a daunting task. And I think that's why so many people run from it, because people are just like, well, how do I know what the right programming is? Like, how do I reparent myself? How do I tell my inner child, like, it's not your fault? And like, those are all really painful things to relive. So I understand why people run from it, but it's also necessary if you guys want to shift out of just this devastating lower emotions and have all of these blocks inside of you that's just like, why can't my life get better? Like, what's not changing? Why is it not improving? Because if you don't if you continue to run from yourself, it's like not a whole lot's going to change. And even as a runner myself, if you do choose to run from yourself, your problems are going to follow you no matter where you are in the world.
I can attest to the running piece and how the problems are going to follow you because I've kind of had this concept in my mind where I'm like, the grass is always greener elsewhere, right? So like, okay, I'm over here, things aren't working out. I guess I need to go somewhere else. I go somewhere else. Okay, things still aren't working out. Well, maybe it's just this house, and I go somewhere else. And so I've always dealt with this thing where it's like I need to leave or run or escape it, and then it'll go away. And that's been really hard to deprogram because some part of my brain tells me that that's the answer. Now, it's probably come from some traumatic place. I will admit that I haven't come close to touching nearly any of my traumas, honestly. Like, I barely really touched most of them. And that's just because I, my ego is a very, very strong ego and it shields me from going into those deeper places. I told you I talked to my ego. My ego said what it said. I believed the ego. I did. I believed the ego when it said if you go down there too quickly, too fast by yourself, it will destroy you. So I've been taking a measured approach, and I'm the type of person that needs something, whether that's ayahuasca or lots and lots of marijuana or hypnosis. I just need something to get past the ego because the ego is stronger than me. It just is. Um, and, that might be the case for many other people. Like maybe those individuals who are trying and they're struggling or they're stuck or they don't know which direction to go anymore. Perhaps it's the type of thing where the ego is just stronger than you are. Like I've seen conversations from individuals, particularly on Reddit, and this person said something that resonated with me because it felt just like what I was dealing with, where he said, like, my life isn't changing. I have done years of work. I have scraped the bottom of the barrel when it comes to looking for what's there to heal, to overcome, to fix. And I'm tired and nothing's changing and this is a waste of my time. And I was just like, you know what? I get it. That's exactly what it feels like. But the issue, I think, many times when that happens is that you can't get past the ego. And I don't think people typically recognize that. So that's a thing. That's a real thing for any of you who have been putting in the time and the effort and the energy, and you're not seeing the changes. Maybe you need help getting past the ego, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just means getting some additional supports. Like it's not the worst thing in the world. I feel like there's a lot of us, especially if you're a hyper independent like me, firstborn child. My parents, excuse me, were very different when they had me versus when they had my youngest sister.
See? It's a
That's a
thing.
thing. Uh, so the hyper independent in me is just like, no, I can do this. I can figure it out. I'm not paying anyone. Like, you're not getting my money. I'm gonna do it myself. Which has never worked for me, you guys. It's never worked for me at all. So it's just something to consider that if you are running up against walls and blocks and like can't get to that next phase, is your ego inhibiting you? Do you need help getting past it?
Oh, yeah. And so, in terms of the game of life, in terms when it comes to healing, you're not going to really reach the 5D frequency without doing any healing. And so a lot of people are just, I mean, the earth is new, it's this is why it's called a new earth, and the frequency is really beautiful. I'm very in tune with the new earth frequency. Now, has my reality changed? Not really. So, I mean, this is going to be an ongoing thing for me, exploring what the new earth looks like and what it feels like to be attuned with the 5D new earth. But I can tell you that, like, considering everything that's going on, it's like I feel like I have a very solid foundation. And if you guys want to really escape, you guys need to figure out your foundation, and you need to learn how to step away from unnecessary drama. You guys need to learn how to step away from toxic people, which is really painful. And, I'm not going to tell you who to be friends with, who not to be friends with, but negative energy is negative energy. And unfortunately, like people, there's a lot of me, selfish people out there who want, if I've seen this dynamic and I've experienced this dynamic. A healed person versus an unhealed person, you kind of become their unpaid therapist. And it's this really interesting dynamic where the healed person eventually needs to figure out, like, okay, what's your boundary here? And is it worth keeping this person in your life? Because it's like, are they only keeping you around because, they like your free advice? And unfortunately, this is a thing. And it's devastating because it's like it's not real connection. And unfortunately, energy vampire is a thing. There's energy harvesting, there's energy vampire. Like they want your life light, they want your time, they want your energy. And so this is why I often say, like, ascending is it's very lonely because you start to see people who they really are. You start to see the trauma in people. You start to see the unhealed versions of themselves, and it's like, of course, you're the healed person. You're the person that cares about them. You want to help them, but at the same time, it's like you have to balance that very fine line of, okay, like, are you just an unpaid therapist to them, and are they using you? Because unfortunately that's a thing. Or or is there really real connection and care on both sides? Because unfortunately, relationships have changed. Friendships, relationships, even coworkers have changed into this very one-sided relationship where if you have empathy and compassion, people view that as weakness, and people just view that as like, oh well, I can just take and take and take from that person, and they're going to have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't know how we got to this level of greed. I don't really know how we got to this level of, like, jealousy or unsupportiveness or deceit. And like this is very common amongst women. And it's like, I do believe that there's a lot of power in feminine energy and our essence, but at the same time, like, women are really petty, and they're typically more jealous than men are, and they typically talk poorly behind your back. And it's just like, why? It's the game of life. And when people bring in these negative emotions, it's a mind it messes with your mind, because it's just, people don't have your best intentions. People don't want what's best for you. And people sometimes even consciously sabotage you, or wish ill will on you, or don't want things to work out for you. And so it's like, if you're going to stay in that energy with these people bringing you down, it's like, of course, you're not going to be able to go into the new earth, or you're not going to raise your frequency because you're unwilling to do what is necessary to make those proper changes, such as walk away from toxic people, being able to put up boundaries for yourself, being able to look at yourself, being able to walk away and build a relationship for yourself, with yourself, and be in this new frequency of peace, even if it means, and honoring yourself. Oh, yeah, totally forgot about honoring yourself, honoring your boundaries when you set them, not giving in to the temptations of, like, having this person in my life is better than just, being alone all the time. It's like, you have to find ways to honor yourself, even if it's painful, because I can guarantee you, protecting your peace and lowering your stress levels is going to be way more valuable to you than being in the chaos.
Can't disagree with that. And that's something I'm still navigating with too, particularly when it comes to loved ones. Like, it's a little bit more difficult when you come from a background where the belief is that blood is thicker than water, right? Like, you don't do
Mm.
anything to sever that connection regardless. Um, and that's a type of programming that I know a lot of us carry. So I understand that belief that many people have about, like, moving and doing the healing work, and then being a little concerned about the people that are going to have to navigate gravitate out of their lives. And that's hard to do when you like feel in your heart that blood is thicker. So it's a process, and it's a journey in many various different ways. That doesn't mean it's not doable. It just takes more effort. And unfortunately, when it comes to the new age community, how much effort and energy it requires has never been emphasized ever. Like, there is no circle online. And I've looked, like, trust me, I have looked. Well, maybe in small little areas you can find this information, but for the most part, like, the effort and the energy that it requires to overcome your blocks is not fully and correctly emphasized, because it is a lot, and it is effort and energy and dedication and consistency for years. So we're not a sugarcoating podcast, and we're not going to sugarcoat anything for you guys. I'm kind of annoyed about how much was sugarcoated for me when it comes to some of these spiritual circles, like, quite annoyed. But, it is what it is at this point. Like, I didn't know any better. Most people don't know any better. They just kind of have to end up learning the hard way. And, that's life sometimes. So I hope this series was helpful for you guys. It's, I think, outside of the trauma series, it's our second 3-part series or more, 3-part series. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you guys take something away from the game of life. I hope we were able to shed some light about how deep psychological warfare goes and how easily programmed we are and why they start us off so young and how they don't set us up for success and how the truth about how to actually free yourself is not readily available, and it's really wild when you think about it all and when you actually go down this rabbit hole. It's insane. And I am very fortunate that I just had parents who really discouraged against it. And again, I was just like, no, I want to be a part of the Matrix. Again, I didn't know what the Matrix was when I made all those decisions, but I was just like, I want the college experience and I'm going to go take out debt and I'm going to enter the workforce and I'm going to climb up the corporate ladder. And whew, I'm just really happy I had the opportunity to walk away from it and just say, I'm kind of done with corporate America for a little while. I'm going to go travel the world, and I was able to do that. But when I actually, like I said, like maybe 5, 6 years into my travels, I was like, I'm going to go back to America and I'm going to try to get back into the Matrix. And surprisingly, I got the job. It's just from day one, it just started falling apart. And the universe and the company and I decided to part ways like 3.5 months in. And I was just like, okay, message received. Matrix is not for me. I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna take a little break from traveling and I am going to go work on myself. And that's exactly what I did after I got pushed out. I'm not complaining that I got pushed out. Thank you, universe, for pushing me out. Um, but then I just decided, I'm going to work on myself. And that's exactly what I did. I had some unresolved trauma around some family issues that happened in my childhood. And, I both of my parents got sick, and unfortunately things happened there. And it's like I was really alone. And then the universe, you know, brought the right people into my life at the right time and really excelled my growth. And it just goes to show that when you surrender and when you trust the universe to take care of you, it will take care of you. It will bring the people into your life that you need to meet to help with your growth. The universe will push you out of toxic scenarios. You just have to have the courage to walk away. The universe will take care of you if you actually are paying attention to the signs and if you pay attention to the situations and scenarios going on around you. It's like obviously it will never be able to make your decisions for you because that's the beauty of free will, but they will present you with what you need to be presented with. Nothing is coincidence, you guys. Everything happens for a reason. And so if you are meant to be something different, pay attention. I feel like so many people are actually being pushed out because we are in the end game of the game of we're in the end game capitalism. We are in the end game of life. This is why they are saying timelines are splitting. I have seen spiritualists say you are running out of time. Like I don't think anyone really expected it to happen this fast. I don't know how we got here as quickly as we did, but the thing is that we're here. New Earth is here. And the people who do not change the frequency or shift their frequency into the new Earth, a lot of spiritualists are believe that the people who don't shift are going to be stuck on the 3D timeline. And you don't want to be there because it's about to be set on fire, and it's going to be ugly, and people are going to be imprisoned in it, and I don't know if there's any way out. So this game of life, you guys, it's being accelerated faster than any of us probably even expected. And so it's like, if you want to shift, now is the time more than ever, because I don't know if you'll get another chance.
Yes, I don't know either. Myself personally, I still try and I still work towards it. And, the recognition that my ego is stronger than me means I need to really consider other things if I want to try to get there. But I haven't given up. And so, I mean, there's still time, there's still opportunity to at least put in some type of effort to try to get there. We're not here to try to doom and gloom you guys. It's There's still a chance and opportunity here to do that. You just have to put in the effort and you have to definitely get creative too.
Yeah. Like, don't be afraid. Take the risk, because I mean, if you're really unsatisfied with how your life is right now, and if you're unsatisfied with how the system is right now, and if we know that the system is falling apart, well, you are either going to be part of the new system they are creating, or you're going to have to create for yourself to be a part of something that you don't have to submit to them anymore, and you don't have to be controlled by them anymore. And we create your own game of life, stop playing theirs. So I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Thank you so much for listening to this series. I've really enjoyed talking about this. We don't typically talk about things that are, non spiritual or non self help, but I do feel like we are in a very crucial time right now. I mean, other spiritualists have talked about this. So if you guys want to learn more, hit up Spiritual TikTok. There's a lot of information, and I believe it. I believe that we're at the end game, and I believe that people will get trapped into the new system that the powers at be are creating. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the only way to really escape it is to create your own way,
Mm-hmm.
because we have the power to do it ourselves.
Absolutely. Thanks, you guys, so much for tuning in to our three-part series. I hope it was really engaging. We both had a lot to say. So if you stuck through every single episode and got here to the end of the third part, kudos to you. You are on the right path. We're proud of you. So thank you guys so much and talk again soon.
Yes. Everyone have a fantastic week.